Dobro jutro, everybody. I hope you're all well.
Dobro jutro.
And you'll be pleased to know that it's snowing in the UK, but not in Bosnia, which is unusual. But I woke up this morning and it is a winter wonderland out there. It won't stay, but yeah, that's what's happening here. We've got snow and you guys haven't, which is unusual. Anyway, we're just waiting for a few more people to come in. Bojana's just joined. So we'll just be a minute or two before we start.
Dakle, sačekat ćemo I za koju minutu. Ja čujem svoj glas.
Now, Bojana, Bojana, you're there and you want to be an interpreter, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, let me just do this for a second. Okay, you should be on there now. Uh-oh. Wrong share.
Jem,
Yeah.
it's Bojana. Can you try to assign me again? Because I didn't get the message for interpreters.
Okay.
And I think I lost mine.
Okay. A few more technical issues here. Okay. Interpretation. Okay, Messiah, you're on there.
Yes.
Bosnian. Add interpreter.
Assign me. Assign us both.
Yeah. Bojana Imamovic. Okay, you should. There you go. So that's. Okay, you don't know. Okay, so that's. You should both be on there now.
Ja sam kao participant, nema mi kombinacija.
You're both assigned, yeah?
No, we didn't get anything.
Okay, I'm gonna completely try again. Interpretation. Interpreter 1. Let's see her. Interpreter 2. Interpreter. Bojana.
Pozdrav. Jutro. Jutro.
Okay, start. Okay, you want interpretation now?
No. Can you hear us?
Yeah?
Yeah, yeah, you can hear me as a participant, not as an interpreter. I
Yeah.
don't see the message
Okay.
box to
Okay, let me just do that again.
accept your assignment.
Bojana.
Sorry.
Okay, oh, that's fine. Because I haven't done that. Hang on. Why? Now try it.
Yes, yes.
Okay, apologies for that, everyone. A little bit of a.
Now
blip
it's
on
okay.
that.
Can
Okay.
you hear me now, Jam?
Yeah,
On
I can
English
hear
channel?
you. I'm
Yeah.
on the English channel.
I can
hear
see
you.
both channels, so it's okay now.
Super duper. Super duper. Right. Okay. Let's get this show on the road, as they say. Okay, we've got 19 participants and a bit of chat. Okay, excellent. Right, okay, everyone, let's start because it is Friday and I know you'll have stuff to do for the weekend and stuff like that. So welcome to the final session of campaign planning. So once you've done this, you are campaign planners. all qualified and good to go. But let's now press on and go into the last phase, which is evaluation and scoring. But before that, we're going to look at what we've done in terms of the previous element, which is the implementation, looking at an assignment. Just, yeah, quick lesson brief. We're not going to spend too much time on that. As you see on the screen, the same thing. Let's have a quick look at, we won't even, shall we? Yeah, a quick look at the learning management system, which you, oops, what's going on there? Which obviously you're all very familiar with now, hopefully. I will come back to this and show some of the things, but what is quite important for you at the moment is that session 4, I've now opened up some more material. Yeah, so session 4, you will have a video when this is done, but I have opened up 2 handout materials. Yeah, one is a real live campaign plan example, as in live, as in it's happening now in Bosnia. So we'll look at that later. And also a comprehensive campaign planning framework, which you can take away and use to help you in future campaigns. You will recognize a lot of it because actually you've been doing it as you go through as part of the assignments. And there's a post-training survey, but we'll look at that later on. Okay, so everybody's been working on the LMS, or most of you. They're the module objectives. You should know them by now, but specifically, what are we doing today? We are going to be finishing off some of the stuff from the previous lesson, but really we're looking at monitoring the effectiveness of campaigns, measuring the impact and outcome of campaigns, and going back to understanding and appreciating a holistic approach to campaigning. So that's where we're going to be going today, okay? But firstly, I want to go back and look at your homework, effectively, which is what you as groups have done over the last few days. I do appreciate that some of you are probably doing a little bit more in these assignments and activities than others. That was what would happen in any classroom anyway. You get people who are more engaged and want to do stuff, and some people just want to sit back and observe. Different learning styles, different approaches, but I do appreciate those who've gripped the work and got on and led really in your syndicate. So I do appreciate that. So what I want to do in the first bit of this is to get each syndicate, a spokesperson from each syndicate, to literally brief, very briefly, 5 to 10 minutes on their assignment, which was about implementation, looking at content, activities, and matching them to themes in your campaign. So there was the assignment. Let's have a look. What I'll do is at random, not random, the first one I come across, I shall bring up on the screen. And if a member of that group can then give us a quick brief on it, all of us, so we all learn from each other, because there will be different ideas coming from different groups. Just brief myself and the rest of the cohort here on what you were thinking about when you went through this assignment in developing content. So here we have group syndicate 3, which Asra put into the system. So as I said, I'm gonna bring it up on the system, on the screen. And if anybody from group 3, hopefully you've all talked about it amongst yourself, you can brief back on this. I'll make it a little bit smaller so we can actually see what's going on the screen. Not too small. There you go. Okay. All right. So group 3, do you want to take us through your ideas for implementation, content, activities, etc.? Over to you, group 3.
Okay. Yeah. U ime grupe 3.
So on behalf of group 3, Slavica and Azra decided or recommended that I present our work. So before I start, let me just say that I have been learning quite a lot from them because they have more experience in the field, so they will fill in if there is a need as I go along. I have it on the screen. Our communication objective is to have young people from 18 to 25 to increase the wearing of the masks in Sarajevo by 25% in the next 3 months. So we are focusing uh, on changing their behavior. We defined 7 channels or tactics: Facebook, Instagram, social media, graffiti, shows for the youth online, and workshop with students, public events, pamphlets and flyers that would be distributed during those public events about the masks, and billboards. So who is the target audience for each of these channels or tactics? For Facebook, when we use this channel, we will be targeting students and unemployed youth from 19 to 25 who gather in specific groups with extensive membership. For example, there is a brain drain group that has around 30,000 members, which is very active, it's very popular, and information spreads quickly in this group. What content would be created and sent to this group? Primarily a public invitation to the youth of this age group to prepare short videos about why they're wearing the mask. And for example, the first place, the award would be a mobile phone. And we would accompany that with the corresponding hashtag. That video should last for um, 30 or something seconds, and 30-second videos depicting a young man who had infected his parents, and one video would have the statistics about the infection spreading among this age group of persons from 45 onwards. And we would try to interact with the group and inspire them to be more concerned or to express more concern for their parents and for the elderly. That's how we plan to connect with them, and we expect a very positive reaction to this message of involvement and the message of solidarity in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And we also expect positive reaction to this message because it is supposed to stir emotions of certain kind. How often and over which period we would be preparing or doing these videos and broadcasting them at least once per day throughout the campaign. So this would be for Facebook. Very similar what we plan to do with Instagram, because as you know, young people spend most of the time on this channel, on this social media, almost daily. And the same target group, young people aged 19-25 that use Instagram often and communicate through Instagram. And we would use Insta stories to broadcast these videos and photographs, and we would hire or try to hire some role models, famous people, sports people, actors, models, who would be sending a message, something like, I'm wearing a mask, what about you? What we would do is to have, for example, a famous athlete wearing a mask, and then underneath there's a caption, I'm wearing a mask, what about you? Or a model wearing a mask saying that wearing a mask is in right now, it's trendy. And we also presume that we would have a positive reaction to this because their role models would be addressing them, influencers, famous people, and young, especially young athletes and famous people, and we would be posting at least daily during the campaign. The third is graffiti, urban population, students. We would have graffiti saying, "Don't be a douchebag, wear a mask," something to that effect. We would be putting these graffitis at the locations that are planned for that. And graffiti culture is very popular in Sarajevo, and we think that we would be targeting a lot of people with this message with the graffiti, and we would find locations like where people gather in coffee bars and etc. Then radio shows and advertisement, we would be addressing young employed people. Videos that would be prepared in advance for to convey this message. We would transform it into a radio message, something of the similar kind, but in audio version, and we would be broadcasting it through these periodic advertisements or in the different radio shows. So I think that this way we would attract the attention. Maybe Azra, you could fill in because she was filling in this part. I'm looking through it. It says young people, talented, one of us. What did we say? What was this? I cannot remember how we phrased this as a result, but what we're counting on is that we would have a positive reaction, stirring this emotion and copying behavior, or we would be broadcasting in the morning and in the afternoon around 4 or 5. So because this is the time when people are going to work and coming back from work. The next channel is online workshop with the Association of Students. The target group are students. We would have an interactive workshop on coronavirus, and we would find someone who is of their age working at the university to engage the target population and stakeholders like teaching assistants or professors from the university would be doing this every month for the students of different universities or schools, and we will be targeting again the population of student age. We would use popular locations. We said here actor Muamer Kasurovic, who is of younger age, is a younger generation actor, is famous amongst the young. He would be distributing masks and flyers during these public events. We would set up stands in front of the shopping centers and the different schools in Sarajevo. We would be distributing these masks with photographs of the famous people with the masks and the graffiti that had been placed different locations to show that they or to stir emotion amongst the public about the message. And we would be doing this once every month during weekends in front of shopping centers or during the work days when the students are attending their universities. And we have we have billboards also. That's the final channel targeting this group, but others will also others will be able to see the billboards as well, and it would be showing a face without a mask that says out and a face with a mask that says in. And then again, we would be broadcasting the same message: don't be a douchebag, wear a mask. We would be relying on the third party endorsement, and we hope they will be also involved in this channel. We are taking into account the the cultural meaning behind this saying "Don't be a douchebag" in Sarajevo, because we would be using a particular slang. And I hope that I've managed to cover everything that Slavica and Azra had inserted in the template. So if there are any comments by my colleagues in the group, please take the mic. Then I will follow up, or Azra, would you like to go first? No need. Aida has managed to summarize everything. And I just wrote in the chat, don't devalue your contribution. You were as active as us. So I thought that maybe in future she should be our spokesperson because she was very good. Yes, I wanted to say the same thing. This was really our a group effort, and we each participated and contributed equally. But as far as our target group population is concerned, we were, as you could see, focusing on social media, graffiti, the radio shows for the young generation. We decided not to use the TV because this is the media that is more frequently used by our target population. And as Azra was saying about the radio shows, these are videos that we made during the public now when we advertised for the videos on Facebook. Now we will just convert them into audio so they can be broadcasted on the radio. These are messages for the young generation, just ordinary folk who are I mean, someone from their milieux, people who are talking to their generation, to their friends, to other members of this population. So we don't need necessarily, these will be videos made by the general public. So besides this advertisement, maybe we didn't explain this thoroughly, we will be also preparing videos for 30 to 20 seconds from using our message house about the content that we wish to send out, the 3 key categories, the 3 words or the 3 key areas of family, social life and everyday life and economy. We have stories that we wrote down, so we will be using that throughout the campaign. We would film this and we will be broadcasting it through the channels that we decided on. So thank you, Aida, once again.
Yes, thank you, all of you. Thank you, Aida. That was very well constructed, and yeah, you've got a spokesperson role there, I think, for the future. I have had a quick look at all of them very briefly, and you've all gone through a fair, you really have done a fair bit of thinking with this. All syndicates are. As your group's the first one, I shall make some comments and pose some questions which I will want the other groups to think about as well as they present. Yeah, I do like the vox pop idea. Basically, getting your audience or some of your stakeholders to produce videos and put them into you, and then the conversion, not only of using those videos but also converting them into audio as well. That's great, because in fact, if you think about it, you start your campaign early by doing that, because in asking these people to produce that's engaging your audience already. That's starting to engage. So even before you maybe have got social media content, you are engaging your audience because you're asking them for content. So your campaign already starts. So that was very, very good. Out of the way, yeah, online workshops, yes, very important. This isn't about transmission. This is about engagement, two-way engagement. So by doing that, you also are engaging your audience. From what I got out of that, your key, if I had to sort of really boil down your message into a very singular point, it would be don't be a douchebag, wear a mask. Is that pretty much, if you had to hashtag this, is that where you're going? don't be a douchebag, wear a mask. Is that ultimately what you're saying? Would that be right? Aida, would that be, if I said, what's your key message? If right at the top, would that be what you're actually throwing at people? Don't be a douchebag, wear a mask. Aida, you're the spokesperson for the group. Am I right? Yeah.
Pa dobro, ja mislim nekako da konkretna rečenica više se odnosi na sarajevsko područje. Mi jesmo ciljali mladi.
I'm now I mean, we were targeting the Sarajevo population, but we also have these other messages: be in, wear a mask. But now that you put it in that way, it could be a message targeting the other members of this population. Don't be a douche, wear a mask, because it covers all these channels of communication. But let me emphasize this. We have several messages that we wanted to broadcast through different channels. So we were trying to adjust them to different channels so that young people who are on that channel will be able to understand the message. If I say this to a young group who don't understand this, put it in the group on Facebook where you have people outside of Sarajevo, don't be a douchebag. I'm not sure would they find it insulting or too harsh. So we wanted to have these other options adjusted to these other channels, basically adjusted to the population who is using this channel. So that's my thinking right now. So I don't know what others think.
The reason I raised that is it is quite important that you can ultimately distill your campaign to a singular message. You may have sub messages, you may have them going out there. And don't be a douchebag, wear a mask. Ultimately, I think that kind of works because your audience is 18 to 25. So using that vernacular, it kind of works for them. I think in most urban and rural environments, it kind of works for them. But the idea of having a singularity, a single point, saying this is it, this is my key message, is very important. And the example being in the Brexit campaign in the UK, there were messages around immigration, there were messages around sovereignty, there were messages around Great Britain, but ultimately, everything fed into take back control. So there were lots of messaging, but if I said to anybody during the Leave campaign, what is your big key message, the one I need to take away, it was take back control. I could take all those messages, it's like don't mess with Texas. Same thing, messages around being a man, messages around being, pride, messages around Texas, but ultimately don't mess with Texas. That's the thing. So that's why I was sort of dwelling on the don't be a douchebag. I think that's relevant and resonant for your audience. So that was all very good. Thank you very much for that. And hopefully we're all learning from that. And I do like the Voxbox. The issue I might have about public events right now quite tricky because of COVID-19. So you might have to consider the relevance of that. Sorry. So that might be something. What I am going to ask all of you, I want you to just think about this. All groups. If you had to drop one or two of your activities, which ones would it be? Because this is quite ambitious. All of yours, I think, are quite ambitious. You haven't got much time. So you might have to think, actually, it would be great to do all this stuff, but we cannot. We have not got the resources to do it. So that's one question. What would you drop? Two, the second one thing is, how much is this going to cost? Because you have talked about billboards. You've talked about getting videos in from stakeholders from the brain drain group and stuff getting videos in, but you said you're going to hire someone to do some sort of video editing and maybe audio editing. That costs money. So as part of this, ultimately, great plan. How much is it going to cost, and have you got time, and have you got the resources to do it? So it's always good to be ambitious when you do this part of the planning, but then you have to stand back and be very pragmatic about it. Have we got the resources? Have we got the time? Have we got the money? Especially if you're going to go to your directors, or even up to the minister and say, this is what we want to do and this is how much it will cost. So I think that's relevant. That would be relevant for all of you. So as you go through, think about what will you drop if you had to, how much time are we using, and how much it costs, how much it's going to cost. Yeah, be pragmatic. Okay, but thank you very much for that. Right, let's have a look at some others. Once again, 5 to 10 minute quick brief. The first one always gets most of the attention, but that's just the way it goes. But 5 to 10 minutes. Right, okay, so we have group 4. Let's have a look at group 4s. Okay. Still downloading it. There we go. Group 4. So a representative from group 4. Let's just open that up. There it is. Group 4, would you like to give us a quick brief on your grand plan, please?
Dobro jutro. Svima u ime grupe 4.
Good morning. I will present on behalf of Group 4. When it comes to our goal, it is to reduce the number of newly affected in the Council of Ministers by 20% by the end of January 2021. In terms of channels or tactics, we defined 4: posters, training, flyers, and promotional materials, including the key elements: masks, gloves, and disinfectants. When it comes to our public, it is civil servants and other employees of the institution, including top and middle management, as well as all other employees. When it comes to activities, we define them by channels. For posters, they will contain the key message, take over control. We chose the poster because it is easily displayable in all offices, and all staff will easily see it, and it will maintain their focus on the issue and on the mission to take back control over our lives, jobs, etc. The key assumption is that the staff will be willing to participate and to respond to this campaign, because they will see that their own livelihood is at stake. We would use this channel throughout the campaign. As for the training, we would organize that in the second part of the campaign. It would be an online training on how to properly use protective equipment in order to prevent further spread of the virus inside the institution. The assumption is that we will have available experts to deliver this training, and that we will have willing participants, and we believe they will be willing because their lives are in question here. In the third and fourth week of the campaign, we would use our remaining channels using messages of the WHO and crisis staffs local crisis staffs about the importance of protection. We would do this in the third and fourth week of the campaign in order to remind people of taking back control, their main mission, and promotional materials. We would include them from day one of our campaign, and they would contain our key message, the logo, and in addition, we would use the masks with logos, the promotional materials. We would coordinate that with the PR managers in the institution, and we would have all representatives of the institution wearing this logoed mask in their public appearances. And thus they would lead by example, lead other staff by example. The promotional material would be used throughout the campaign, as I said. So that would be in brief what we thought about.
Great.
Thank you. And thanks to my colleagues who also worked on this together with me.
Thank you, Martina. Thank you very much. I like, I'm not being partisan here. I'm not being favorite, having favorites, but I do really like this campaign because one, it's got a brilliant message, which does go to the heart of emotion, of human emotion, really, and tries to deal with our fears and concerns right now. That take back control. It's the same as the Brexit campaign. Take back control, but in a totally different context from the Brexit campaign. So I really like that. I also quite like it because, and this is because the nature of the campaign it is quite self-contained. You've got a very, very select audience. It's staff working in, civil service staff working in council and ministers' offices. So it's, you know exactly who really you're talking to. And therefore it doesn't need to be ambitious. It can be highly targeted. And I think you have done that. Posters, obviously, yeah, very useful. The training, online training, yeah, using training in this context as a communication channel to influence people is very powerful. I think you'd have to think about, one, just having training is great, but how do you also then persuade them to do the training? So you'd have to a degree, think about a little campaign for the training itself. How do you get them to do this online training? Persuade them to do it. Do they get something for it? Do they, is there some sort of incentivization? So I think that is something you have to think about. Promotional material, yeah, that's great. That's pretty standard kind of stuff. I think the masks with logos, yeah, that's useful. But I think even more importantly, actually, is something which you said afterwards about the leading by example. I think in this, getting senior management involved very, very quickly and saying, look, we need you to be the champions for this. We will provide you with all this, the posters, the promotional material. We'll say, here is a mask for you to have, but to be seen wearing it, I think is very important. I don't know, maybe some senior civil servants do interact with their staff more, maybe online at the moment. So maybe when they're doing a Zoom thing, they wear the mask or whatever, do some sort of VTC. So I think that's quite important as well. So it's good. And you're also very, very, very clear about what you want to do. 20% increase using materials, following guidelines within the council of ministers. It's very self-contained and it's got a nice message. So I like this. I say the training you need to think about more and the lead by example. I said the gap must be to be critical is there more you could do using digital? And the reason I say that is somewhere there will be a database of all all your audience, their texts, their SMS messages, sorry, not messages, their telephone numbers, their emails. I think maybe there's something more you could do on those lines. Yeah, I see Yasenka's got her hand up. She wants to contribute. Yasenka.
Just to add, because there was a few comments on this presentation on the chat.
Yep. Please, yeah.
Azra added just something what is related to the digital channels, which you have mentioned, MIMC, as a platform that can be used for this, and intranet.
Yes, yes. I think that's where I was going. I think maybe if there was a gap here, yeah, the intranet, the fact that you do have a captive audience and you know how to speak to them because you all work within one organization. Dalibor, you had your hand up.
Da, dobro jutro I hvala vam na prilici.
Yes, good morning. Thank you. I don't want to defend us. I just want to follow up and say that we did think about digital channels, but I have to say that MIMC is underused. I myself take full responsibility for not using it enough. So we took that into consideration as well, the level of usage among the staff. And that's why we focused on these tangible, visible, hard copies, so to say. And we gave them preference in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't need to defend yourself. Don't worry. This is, these are all good ideas. And this is about being able to, for communicators to interrogate ideas, and this is the whole process we have to go through. But as I say, I like this. Yeah, Yasenka, what else is going on in the chat?
Not only Azra, also Daria commented that she proposed behind the intranet to use internal newspapers.
Yeah.
Some kind of the even billboards or internal billboards, wallpapers, because it's that is something what can be prepared by the public relation department or communication department. It is not, you are not paying anything for this.
Yeah.
And you are getting the results, you are achieving the effect.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, that's an easy win, because there will be these internal documents.
And the bulletin of the Council of Ministers, which Azra just mentioned in her latest comment, bulletin of Council of Ministers.
Yeah.
Evo još jedan prijedlog, meni se sviđa ovo što se kolegice.
And another suggestion, I like what my colleagues have suggested. For example, in the European Integration Directorate, our organization, when we had another spike in the curve, the second wave, the director sent a circular email to all staff asking them to maintain their protective measures and practices, and appealed to everyone to report any symptoms immediately so that their status and everything else can be resolved with speed and care. And I, as a member of the staff, took that as a very positive sign of our management thinking about us, taking care about all of us. And we did have a very small number of staff members infected, because we were all very much aware of our responsibility to others. And it's all free, you don't have to do that much.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's say this, I like this. It's compact, it's self-contained. But these discussions that we're all having now on a campaign, these are discussions which you could have on MIMC. If any of your organizations, be it state, federation, RS, Republika Srpska, Birchco, or even a department within any of those, if you are starting to develop a campaign, MIMC is the place to have this discussion, then someone to go, actually, we did a similar campaign last year, and we found this was useful. There you go. So MIMC it's just a community of communicators to discuss exactly these kind of ideas. So use it. Yeah. So Martina, thank you very much. And Group 4, thank you very much for that. Take back control. Absolutely. Right. Okay. Let's press ahead. And also thank you for the comments from everybody else as well. Here we have the next one, which let's have a look at this.
Jem, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I have received a chat message from Adisa. She said that they have also submitted assignment. She's not sure, is this one which you are trying to open from Sejad?
I think this might be the same, possibly. Let's have a look. Let's open it up. It doesn't have a group name.
Because she said that she submitted on behalf of her group.
That's group
2.
Yeah. Does that look
Adisa,
good?
da li je to taj? Ili se radi o drugom? Darija, da li vi vidite?
Adisa, Daria, can you see it? Is that the one or is it something else? That's the one.
That's the one. Okay, so this is group 2. Yeah, which look, wow, this is quite developed. This is, there's a lot of stuff in there. Ambitious. Yeah, like group 3, and I do, quite ambitious. So always in the background.
Okay, they are saying that Mimi is a presenter on behalf of their group.
Right, okay, well in that case, please, Mimi, over to you.
Dobar dan svima.
We can't see you.
Good morning.
We can't see you, Mimi.
Nažalost, ne možete me vidjeti, ja sam kući I ne izgledam baš...
You can't because I'm at home and I'm waiting to see whether I will develop symptoms or not. And I'm not looking my best today, so I'd prefer to stay
that's fair enough.
Behind the black screen.
That's a good excuse. Off you go, Mimi. Yeah, it's a good excuse.
Dakle, pokušat ću što kraće da...
I will try to be as brief as possible. I think we are all in the same boat. It's difficult to find the time to technically organize group work on this, but we are trying to improve from one assignment to another, and I hope we will perform well today. So what we want to achieve is increase observance of protective measures among working age population aged 35 to 45. Since it is a very broad demographic, including people of different professions and different habits, we opted to focus on traditional channels, but to make sure that the message reaches construction workers as well as office workers. One of the channels would be a radio jingle, which would be targeting all of those people listening to radio in their cars on their way to work or at home while they are preparing to set off for work. In the morning hours before the working hours begin, although we would have to include people working in shifts, people working night shifts as well. So we would also use a second time slot sometime in the afternoon or early evening to target those working night shifts. We would inform people about proper use of masks, ventilation, hand washing, and disinfectants. And we also thought to use posters. As you know, we will target people's emotions about their closest family members, their colleagues, and their livelihoods. So our logo that we still have not defined fully would be "May you be alive and healthy," because when you're healthy, you have everything, something like that. So radio jingles would be one of our channels. The second channel would be posters in public transportation and at stations, bus stations, tram stations. And we would also use posters in different companies, their offices, but also in supermarkets, because this is the demographic that will be doing the shopping as well for their families. We would also use flyers, and we thought about how to target the population the best. We thought that SMS, Viber, and emails would not be producing the same effect. So we focused on utility bills. Uh, Whether people pay bills by electronic banking or on at post offices, they all receive their bills and they all look at their bills. And we thought that utility bills would be a good means of distribution of our message. We didn't think about financial limitations we would have on this campaign. So with that in mind, we also included billboards that could rely on the standard messaging of the World Health Organization, the distance, hand washing, and so on, including our message as well. So if we would have the money, we would probably also use billboards positioned on standard routes of public transportation. And of course, we want to reach as many people as possible in our audience. So we wanted to have famous people sharing our main message, although we would do our due diligence on these campaign faces. And we would broadcast these messages before the central news programs, also during broadcasts of major sports events, and the shows watched the most in our area. That would require an analysis, a proper analysis beforehand, to see what the preferences and viewership and rates are. We have many TV stations, cable TV, and a broad scope of news programs that are watched in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We would use the same message and same content throughout our channels. Of course, we would buy space on online media. And I forgot to mention that we would make videos of these famous people um, and common people, standard usual citizens who lived through, who survived Corona, and who could share their emotional experiences, their fears for their family, their fears for permanent disability, their fears of inability to provide for their families. So we would include the Vox Populi element there as well. We would also place our flyers and videos on most popular online media. In terms of social networks, we focused on Facebook. Of course, this all relies on some type of previous analysis, because not everyone is on Facebook, not everyone is on Instagram. So we would use the findings of that analysis to choose the proper digital social media channels and to see how long the campaign would last. So we would use Instagram stories, either as short video messages or the poster content. We also thought about that not all working people sit in offices and have permanent access, constant access to internet. So whoever has official email address would receive messages by email as well. Perhaps we would have distribution of masks and disinfectants in companies, in offices, and business premises. As for mobile workforce, such as construction workers, drivers, etc., we could target them by text messages. I hope I was concise enough.
No, Mimi, thank you very much for that. That's a lot of stuff going on there. A lot of stuff. My concern would be, and I'm going to use an English phrase, that you are throwing the kitchen sink at it. And that means you're kind of throwing everything at this.
Pa to je upravo...
Which is fine. Which is fine. But I think...
Upravo to.
So who's that? Who's speaking?
Naravno, izbjegli smo, izvinjavam se što prekidam, Džem, izbjegli smo...
Mimi speaking, I'm
Mimi,
sorry
please.
for interrupting. We wanted to avoid any type of public gathering or group events. We thought it would not be prudent in the situation as it is to have any kind of public gathering element. And as for online events, we are not sure that our target audience would be willing or enthusiastic enough to attend an online event after working hours. So we put that aside.
True. Yeah, absolutely. But as I say, there's you're that aside, and I think you're absolutely right. Not public events, that's going to be difficult. And yes, if any online stuff, you will need to do a lot more analysis yet to find exactly where you're going to do that. But there's a lot of stuff you are still trying to do. Radio spots. Radio spots cost money and they take time. Okay. Oh dear. Hello, are you there? Can you still hear me?
Da, naravno.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. I got
Okay.
a notification I was being signed out, but that's fine. Okay, so still going on. Radio spots themselves, they take a lot of time, a lot of money. Posters, flyers, public spaces, supermarkets, brilliant idea. Supermarkets, yes, your demographic is going to be going in and out of supermarkets. Brilliant. The vox pops, as we discussed it with group 3, great idea. Costs money. What I would be saying is here for you is you're going to have to be a lot more specific, and you're going to have to think about, what do I drop, maybe, or in terms of my social media, how do I make it very, very targeted? What I did like, which is ambitious, is the utility bills you talked of. Yeah, because your demographic, definitely, 30 to 45 or whatever it is, yes, that they have utility bills, be they online or possibly still in paper. I think that's a very good way of getting their eyes onto a message. But that would be, you would need to involve quite a few stakeholders there. Those people who actually send out utility bills, you'd need to bring them in. Yeah, that's quite ambitious in itself. I think it's a very good idea, but it is quite ambitious. Given that we haven't got much time, how long would it take to bring them on board, to get that organized, so that your message is on utility bills? I think the time constraint might give you a problem. So, like with everybody else, to think, what might I have to drop out of this list? How much is this going to cost? Because it's going to cost a fair bit. Yeah. And have I got the time to do some of this stuff? So I think it's really good. You've come up with lots of good ideas on how to do this. But I think you're going to have to really be very pragmatic and very realistic in the delivery of this, and actually making it actually happen. Once again,
Radi se o tome i samo da smo željeli doprijeti
the thing is that we wanted to reach everyone in this very wide demographic, because we were aware that one or two channels will not be sufficient for total coverage. And one thing that could be a money saver is that all these posters and flyers would have the same content. So it would be just a matter of format in printing. We wouldn't have to develop content separately for each and every of those. So we didn't think about separate messaging for public transportation, for supermarkets, and so on. The design would be the same. I don't know if anyone of my colleagues from the group would like to add something. If they do,
anything else from group 3? That's Daria, I think, putting her hand up. Yeah. Please, yeah.
Dobar dan, čujete li me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Ja ću više ovdje biti kao podrška, evo čisto da se
I'm going to be support, like a support, just to say a few things from our group, to thank everyone who participated in this third assignment. Mimi said everything. Basically, our target group is very broad. Group 4 has a very narrow target population, and they can focus more easily. And I really like this assignment in group 4. But for us, our objective was to cover the population as much as we could. Online media, and Facebook is the most popular social media in Bosnia and Herzegovina. That's why we focused primarily on Facebook. I know that it requires more effort. It is very ambitious, but a dose of healthy ambition is good. It's motivating, and we thought that we should personalize the messages to reach the people we are targeting. And on the Facebook page, initial page, we would say, Daria, for example, wear a mask. It's very important that you protect yourself, that you protect others. Recently, we had a campaign for the vaccination against the seasonal flu, and that campaign was personalized. And also the idea about the bills, it was the fastest way of reaching this population. And I think it's an excellent idea. There were never, in the past, we never had a similar communication channel through bills. And I think it's a good idea worth exploring. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, who else got their hand up? Yeah, please, yeah, go ahead.
Dobar dan svima I od mene.
Good morning, everyone. My opinion about the campaigns that are targeting broader public, a lot of people of different age, I think that you can save a lot if you are defining locations for billboards and flyers. Because I think putting up huge billboards just on the road where people are passing by quickly, they are not very effective, and they are very expensive. For example, if you have citizens who use more public transport, bus, put it on the bus stand where people will be spending more time. supermarkets where people are queuing in front of the cashiers while they're waiting, they're looking around and they have the time to read what's written on the billboard. For example, in our institutions, elevators, because you spend some time in the elevator, you are not doing anything but just watching around. If you are using a car more frequently, then put the billboard on the traffic light or near the traffic light, because when people are waiting for the green light, they have some time to read what's written on the billboard. So, or a flyer, so you can use smaller formats, not huge ones. But if you place them strategically, they can produce a much better effect than just huge billboards put at the usual locations. That's what we wanted to do, Mika. Thank you for your suggestions. When we were developing the plan, that's exactly what we had in mind, to have the similar information, to save money, not to print too many posters or flyers, to have one message that is very as I said, that can be received by everyone, and find those best locations, like you said, shops, supermarkets, or other locations where a particular target group is expected to be spending time. So that's exactly what we had in mind.
Absolutely. I think the analogy could be, in a way, coronavirus. You know, the nearer you are to someone who's affected, for the longer time, the more likely you're going to be affected. So the nearer your audience is to your message, for the longest time, the more likely they're going to take it on board. So yeah, it's the analogy which Misa and Daria are talking about there. Absolutely, take your message, to make it as easy as possible for your audience to engage with your message. And that means, yeah, put it in places where they're going to be there and can't really avoid it. You know, big billboards, they're great for doing mass selling of, you know, Coca-Cola and stuff. But if you want to be more targeted, absolutely. Yasenka, you had your hand up, something on chat. Yasenka, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, just a few comments from some other members of the group. They said that they have been maybe ambitious too much, but they understood it as an exercise. They just wanted to show all the possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there is a comment more. Maybe the government will allocate a certain amount of the money. They will get the chance to run such kind of the campaign.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's up. Communicators' job is to influence people, and a lot of your job will be influencing your own ministries, departments, governments to come up with the money. Absolutely. And the ambition thing, yeah, Daria is right. There's nothing wrong with a dose of ambition, and there's nothing wrong with, yes, throwing everything at it, and then looking back and going, okay, this is hyper ambitious. We cannot possibly do all of this, but at least we've actually got it down on a piece of paper. And now we can start pragmatically looking at what we can and can't do in the real world. So it's always a good idea of just thinking ambitiously and then thinking realistically and pragmatically later on. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thank you very much for that. Who was that? That was group 2 and Mimi. Thank you very much. Let's have a look at the final, the last but not least of these before we break for coffee. Let me see, what did we have? Let's go to the next page. Oh, there we go. Now, is that the same one?
That's assignments from Adisa.
Yeah, that's the same one though, isn't it? Group 2, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a look. The next one is, where's the last one? There is, aha, here we go. This is group 1, I believe. That's right.
Yeah, they are.
Yep. Okay. So let's have a look. Group 1. Would you like to give us a quick brief before we break for coffee, and then we resume with the session? So group 1. Someone from group 1 want to tell us what it's all about.
Pozdrav u ime grupe 1, Dejan i nadam se da se čujemo.
Diane here. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
Čujemo se. Evo smo imali jednu težaviću okolnost jučer što je kolega
I have a problem, a small problem. Aco had a death in his family, so unfortunately he couldn't be with us today, and he tasked me with the rest of the colleagues to complete the work and put it on the platform. But following up on the previous presentations, the main objective, the main message that we are focusing on is to continue to enable us to have a normal life, or as much of a normal life as possible, by wearing masks and maintaining hygiene as recommended. And we focused on the 3 themes: health, free time, work. We wanted to avoid this, but use the positive message in a way to not focus on the negative aspects, like closing down of the companies, the sickness, and everything else. Our role was to encourage the economy and to help our establishments and the businesses who are suffering the most. So we selected 2 categories of the establishments: coffee bars and breweries. Actually, 1 brewery and 1 coffee bar. So we think that this is the best for the target population, because they are visiting catering establishments the most, and the habit that we have to socialize, and usually the socializing takes place in coffee bars. So our objective was not to scare the people with these horrific images that you can see when you turn on the TV, and images of people in intensive care. And we wanted to send the message that by being responsible and adhering to the restrictions and measures, we can contribute to having a normal life and going to the coffee bars and pubs. So since we are in the winter season and we will be spending time indoors, which increases the risk of infection. So with our campaign, we want to influence people who refuse to give up on that year-long habit of having a pint in the pub after work or going for coffee. So we who are coffee addicts, we just cannot give up on that. You remember during the first wave, when everything was closed down, people would queue up in gas stations to get their coffee from the coffee machine, you know, to get a coffee to go, and then just stand outside in front of the gas station and have coffee and socialize. So we don't want to give up on our routine, but we want to maintain the economy and help the small business, that coffee bar that we visit every day, but also to show that with our responsible behavior, by respecting the restrictions and the recommendations, we will reduce the number of the infected and the spread of the virus. So as for our specific solutions, Željena and I opted for a visual. The campaign would represent like a group of 4 people who are standing very close or hugging. They're not respecting the social, they're not maintaining the social distance. But on the other hand of the billboard, on the right side of the billboard, there's a picture of the coffee bar that's closed down completely. And on the door, there's a seal or a piece of paper that says that this coffee bar that we frequented is now closed down because we did not um, respect and adhere to the recommendations and the restrictions. We didn't wear the masks. Wearing a mask is now obligatory in coffee bars. And in our case, most of the patrons don't wear masks. And especially if you're indoor, I mean, for indoor places, including coffee bars. So it's very difficult to maintain this. And we would use this visual to show what will happen if we do not respect the measures. And this other side of the campaign, if we this would be like a teaser, but the second phase of the campaign would be focusing on the right behavior, what we have to do to keep our favorite coffee bar open and running. So on one side, we would have the photo or the picture of these same patrons sitting at a safe distance or having coffee or beer. And there's a 1 or 2 meters of recommended distance between them, and they're wearing some funny masks. For example, on the right side of the billboard, we have then the picture of a waiter who is smiling and thanking us. He's holding the beer or coffee cup, and he's saying, thank you for, thank you, I will see you tomorrow, I guess. And just to show that we have a chance to have coffee every day and to have beer every day, but we saved the business. We made sure that this waiter has his job tomorrow. Now that I mentioned the waiter, he is an important chain in a link in the chain in our campaign, because with some short videos, we would include his testimonial where he's telling us that he lost his job because the patrons did not mind the measures, and that's why he's out of work. He is a father of 2, now unemployed. And in the second phase of the campaign, we would also use that same waiter who has a job, who didn't lose his job, and the message would be that respecting the recommendations and ensuring that we maintain social distance, we will save someone's life, someone's job. So I thought that as a public institution, we might have more budget than the others, and we can count on the cooperation of other institutions and public broadcasters and media houses that could give us the broadcasting space for free. And for billboards, we could also get a better deal, or as I said, we would be able to keep within the budget that you mentioned that could be an issue. So one of the important chains in this links in this chain is to ensure the engagement of the young people. We would be targeting the population from 30 to 40, sending the message through TV shows or jingles and clips and billboards. But when students and younger population is concerned, we'd be using third-party endorsement, perhaps influencers, people that they are following on social media, and these influencers would be sending out this message. I believe that all of us who go to coffee bars, we can see that the patrons are not doing what is expected of them. And there is a risk that the manager of the bar would be fined because his patrons are not respecting the measures. I mean, we are not being responsible, and someone else will be will take the blame. So we want to ensure that the young population is engaged through social media with the help of the influencers, again with the visual of people wearing a mask in the catering establishment, sitting appropriately. I am maintaining social distance, I'm wearing a mask, I'm having a coffee, and they are showing that it's possible. I mean, if only you put in some effort. So I think there will be it will be catchy when you turn on your, or you would just you know follow an influencer who is doing this. It will be it will come across this message.
Dejan, thank you very much for that. That's very useful in our thinking, actually, because what you've done there is, I mean, I can see that you've gone through, you know, on the screen, I can see you've gone through the channels and the standard channels. But what Group 1 has done, more than the other groups, I think, is that actually you spent a little bit more time on what we would call the strategy area, in defining those themes and thinking about, when we say information, stories, and examples as part of the thematic makeup of the message house, there's a very strong visual element that's come out there. You've already developed a story, really. You've focused it on something very culturally relevant, coffee, to a degree beer, but I think actually coffee, you know, coffee bars, and you know, and you even talked about during lockdown 1, people queuing up to garages. So you've got a really strong central theme of coffee, and I mean theme not in terms of communicating things, a really good idea in terms of the visual narrative. So I think what you've just spent more time talking about, Dejan, there is less on the implementation bits, but you've done the work anyway. But it seems that Group 1 have spent a lot more time thinking about how this story, this narrative will work around, you know, really, you know, it's a message of hope that yes, we have these restrictions, but we can actually we can make the most of it. We can, to a degree, live a normal life even under these restrictions. This is what happens when you don't, and this is what happens when you do. Yeah, but we can go to coffee bars as long as all these things are done. We can do a degree of normal stuff. So I like that a lot. I think. So yeah, the relevance of your presentation is, it's really worthwhile spending a lot of time doing the strategy bit and thinking through the message house, the visual elements, the stories, the information, yeah, all that. And Group 1 have spent a lot of time doing that, and I think that would really help you, because I looked at this on your the recent assignment. You said TikTok, I thought, TikTok, how are you going to use TikTok? I think for the other groups, TikTok would be not necessarily relevant because I couldn't really see the visual narrative that might work on someone like TikTok. But with this group, I can see a visual representation which could work on TikTok. So it gives me a much better sense of how it might work on various channels. So I think that was very, very useful. Once again, you'd have to think, what might I have to drop in terms of my delivery? How much money would I need? But you said that actually some industries might be willing to support you on this, because coffee bars would be quite happy for you to be promoting, a way of life in COVID-19 in their coffee bars. So you could get a lot of help and assistance and support from people who own coffee bars and cafes. So that although it might cost a lot of money, you might be able to offset that by
I'm
support.
sorry, we have lost translation. Something
Really?
is wrong. Yeah, we can't hear the girls. Okay, they're here. Okay.
They're back. They're back.
Could you
hear me?
repeat just two last sentences, Jem, please?
Okay. Yeah. Although it might cost a lot of money, on the face of it, you might be able to offset it by a lot of people willing to support and help you, especially people who own coffee bars, who own hospitality venues, who might be willing to support this. I'd say in terms of a risk, I suppose the question, so in the UK, hand, space, when we were in lockdown 1 and lockdown 2, you just did not socialize. Yeah, you were not meant to socialize at all. Yeah. Now you're saying, well, so you can socialize as long as you do all these things. I think you might have to have discussions, quite a high level policy with the scientists involved as to, is this a good idea? Is this actually a good idea to encourage people to do the right thing by telling them to do something which might not be a good idea? Do you see what I mean? You're saying, right, obey the government guidelines, wear masks and stuff, and then you can go and socialize. And then someone's saying, but I thought we weren't meant to socialize, because if we socialize, there's COVID-19 and it spreads and it. So there could be one, I think you'd have to make sure that this worked as a legitimate government policy backed up by science. And two, you'd have to be very, very careful in making sure that the message didn't get confusing, because on one hand, you're saying socializing, you shouldn't really socialize when we're in tight lockdown, but actually you can socialize if you wear masks. You see what I mean? There could be a point where someone's going, what? So I can go to coffee shops. Is that what they're saying? I can go to coffee shops. Yeah, I'm going to go to the coffee shop. But no, I'm not saying you can go to coffee. I'm saying you can go to coffee shop, but you have to wear a mask. Right, so if I've got to wear a mask, you're telling me I shouldn't really be socializing. Yeah, so I shouldn't go to the coffee shop in the first place. Yeah, is that? So you'd have to be really, really careful about your messaging. But I do like the visual narrative you are trying to produce. And I get exactly why you're trying to do it. But these are the questions you have to go through. So I like it. Ivana, you've got your hand up. You want to get stuck in. Come on.
Pozdrav. Hvala za te sugestije.
Hi, thank you for your suggestions. That is what we focused on in our proposal, to insist on observing the measures in order to maintain the normalcy as much as it can be maintained. And our whole campaign is centered around this issue. We want to show that if you observe the measures, this will be possible. If you don't, this won't be possible. So some slogans would be, I observe the measures, I live free. I live freely, something like that. Or owners of coffee shops saying into the camera, thank you for thinking about us. Thank you for your support. Something like that. We were thinking about something like that.
Yeah. No, it's a very powerful, it's a very powerful visual image. And I think you've done very well to do that and bring it together. Absolutely. And it shows the importance of thinking strategically at the strategy phase of doing that. So I think that's a really good lesson for all the groups to go away and think, now, okay, we've come up with these content and activities, but have we really thought strongly enough about the message and the visual content and the strategy, which group one have spent a little bit more time doing? So I think that was a really useful addition that group one threw in there. Absolutely. Okay, did anybody else have any comments? Are there anything in chat, Yasenka, you want to bring up?
Some suggestions from other colleagues from the other group. Misha has a great idea. I mean, he gave it for free. I believe that it should be sold for the coffee makers, you know, because a person who has a coronavirus, no taste, no smell, you know. And for example, that person is entering coffee shop, drinking a coffee and saying what kind of the coffee is that. Regardless to the corona, the person can recognize the coffee type.
Yeah, I like it. Yes. Absolutely, a themeless coffee.
Even corona cannot do any harm to our coffee, some kind of the slogan.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, coffee. So coffee becomes the theme, and you can even use, as I say, cultural, no, realistic medical things like taste and smell. You could use that. Yeah, I like the creative thinking coming from me so there. But creative thinking in the round coming from group one. Great. Okay. Well, I think that was a very, a good session. A lot. Hopefully, you've learned from each other. And what we will do is when this is done, we will make sure that all the assignments are available to everybody on the LMS. So you can just take back, look at other groups in more detail. Okay. So thank you very much for that. We are going to press on. And most importantly,
sorry to interrupt you, Jen, one remark more. Azra stressed that she noticed great progress in all groups.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm really feeling quite good about all of this that you're doing. Yeah, you're all thinking about how to design campaigns, and it's coming through in the work that you're putting across. Absolutely. Just one thing to finish this bit through. I think this is a quote from Sun Tzu, ancient Chinese military philosopher, and I think that's very, very important. You have to mix up your strategy, your message house and your visual narrative and copy and all that. You have to mix it in with the tactics. Both have to work symbiotically. Yeah, as it says, strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. And that applies just as much to campaigns as anything else. So I think good old Sun Tzu, 2,000 years ago, yeah, he knew all about campaigning. Yeah. Right. As we've been talking about coffee, I think you all deserve coffee now. So let's take 5 minutes to grab coffee, do whatever, and then come back. Those of you who are back, I mean, don't leave the meeting, obviously, but turn your cameras off, then turn them back on in 5 minutes, and we shall head on to looking at evaluation. Okay? So it's 5 past 11 now. Please back by 10 past, that'd be great. Super. See you in a minute. Okay, everyone. Are we all back in? Cameras on for those who want to be on camera. Just ping them on so I know we've got a reasonable amount of people here. You can always turn them off again if you want to. Good. We will be doing a Zoom selfie at the end of this. Where most people are on camera. So excellent. Okay, we've got a quorum. Okay, so now we want to move on to the next stage of the OASIS plan. And we're going to look now at the S bit, the last S, scoring and evaluation. So let's have a look at how we actually plan and then conduct a bit of evaluation on our campaigns. I'm just going to bring up several aspects, but they're all based around these 5 columns. Theory of change, how the theory of change matches into the evaluation system. What action, remember action was part of theory of change. What we're actually measuring, how we might measure it, and the research methodology which would be relevant to that, that area. So let's have a look. Remember in theory of change, we had outputs as part of our theory of change, what we actually put out there, yeah, or do, content or activities. Outcomes, yeah, what are the outcomes? And those outcomes are really relevant to our campaign. What are the outcomes we've actually got? Are we achieving our outcomes? And then the ultimate impact, which is more related to the strategic policy objective. So let's have a look. What does that mean in terms of action? Well, obviously there's the communication element relevant to the outputs. What are we communicating? How are we communicating with whom? What's the reaction, outcomes? What's the reaction of our audience to what we're doing, content, activities, and what change is actually happening? You know, I mean, we're meant to be contributing to a policy objective, which is about changing an audience's behavior ultimately. Okay. So in terms of what are we actually going to measure to match up against these elements? Well, outputs is fairly easy. Outputs are the things that most people do the measurement of because it is easy. Yeah. In terms of social media, your posts, your press releases you put out, social media interaction activities that you do. Yeah. Maybe you hold some discussion groups. Yeah. Content output, it's stuff that you're doing. Yeah, is a measurement. Yeah, we've put out this number of press releases. We've held this number of town hall meetings. We've put out these number of radio spots. Yeah, it's what you are literally outputting in terms of content or activities. How are they measured? Those things: shares, impressions, tweets, views, visits. Yeah, how many people attended a Zoom webinar that you held? Yeah, that's a measurement. Media take up. Did media actually, bother to engage with what you've got and said, yes, actually we want to do an interview? Yeah, they did an interview. You released your press release. You got some journalists got back to you to ask questions about it. What have you been publishing? Yeah, people have been commenting on your publishing. Content visibility. Yeah, so this is measuring what you are doing predominantly, what you are doing, okay? And that is largely going to be quantitative. How many of this, how many of that, how much of this? It's largely going to be quantitative. This is the easy bit, and this is what people tend to measure and think that it actually indicates success or not. It doesn't. It doesn't. It is a worthy metric, but it does not give the answer to how effective you are being in your campaign. Yeah, you can be very, very, very busy, but achieving absolutely nothing. Yeah, this only sort of measures how busy you are, not how effective you are. So we need to be a little bit more, examining a little bit more. And that's where we go to, is the outcomes. Yeah. So what are we going to measure in terms of outcomes? Well, what's the audience doing with this stuff? Okay. So measuring awareness, understanding, recollection, discussion, attitudes, opinions based upon the outputs or that activity and stuff that you've been doing. Well, how is the public responding to that? Are they aware? Do they recollect? They understand, oh, that's about this. Oh, coffee, the coffee thing. Yeah, okay, coffee. Yeah, you're right, actually. If I want to have a cup of coffee, and if I wear a mask, I can do that and not, endanger other people. So I can have a degree of normality. Ah, yeah, I recollect coffee attached to that. Okay, intentions. What do I intend to do? I intend to wear my mask now, henceforth. Yeah, when I go into the offices. And how are we measuring that sort of stuff? Well, this is demanding more of the audience. What do we know of what the audience is doing? Yeah. So are they liking things? Are they commenting on things? They're responding? How much discussion is going on? Yeah. Have you done if possibly survey results? What do you think of this? Are you intending now doing this? So you can actually start getting some idea of how the audience is responding to what all this busy stuff you've been doing. Yeah, this is more about the audience now, less about you. Okay, and this is starting to get a little bit more sophisticated. We're starting to go more in, not that quantitative isn't sophisticated, but we're now talking more qualitative measurements as well. Yeah, more understanding, more examination and of sentiment of the audience. Yeah. So it's a little bit more sophisticated at this level now. But ultimately, we need to know, one, we're doing all this stuff. Two, the audience is responding in some way. Is it actually having an impact ultimately? Are we contributing to, or our campaign, is that contributing to the strategic policy objective? So how do we measure that? Well, ultimately, that's about what the audience actually does. Not what they say or they think or they recall or they remember or they have intention of. This is what they're actually doing. Yeah. Behavior, action. Yeah. How is it contributing to those strategic policy objectives? And ultimately, how do we measure that change? Well, change indicators, proxy indicators, and observation. So if we want people to, in group ones, what's the most obvious indicator is that more and more people are going into coffee shops and wearing masks. Because that's what you want them to do. All these people that are going to go in Bosnia into their coffee shops, because that's what people do in Bosnia. They queue up at garages for it if they need to. All those people are going into coffee shops. More and more are now wearing masks when they do so. That's an obvious indicator that something's happening. Now, we do have to be aware of causal relationships and correlation. Yeah, because in the coffee bar example, yes, there may be a change. Is it down to your communication or is it down to something else? So we do have to also be aware, are there any other factors which are driving this change which are not to do with our communication? It's not a problem. It's just because, you're still, the objective, the strategic policy is being achieved, but it is worthwhile knowing how much are we as communicators actually contributing to that change. So it is worthwhile thinking, is there anything else that could do it? And what is that? That's largely quantitative. Like I just said, what's the percentage of people that go into coffee bars now who wear masks? What's the percentage in 3 months' time of people going into coffee bars that wear masks? And if it's gone up, great. We have a change happening, and hopefully it's to do with us. Adisa, you raised your hand. Coffee. Adisa, you raised your hand. Adisa?
She said that she has got a problem with audio.
Oh, has she?
Yeah.
You can type in chat if need be. Okay, anyway, we'll press on it if Adisa can either get audio or type in chat, and we'll come back to that. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
In terms of what you're actually doing, really through this journey of evaluation, is that at the output level, really you're looking at analytics. Yeah, it's largely numbers based analytics. You know, looking at your Facebook insights, looking at your social media analytics, very much analytically based. As you go up this from the lower level to the top level of impact, more monitoring, long-term monitoring starts coming in. And still analytics needs to be done, yeah? But now you're starting to go into monitoring of the wider context of your campaign, yeah? You've gone from shares, number of shares, to, okay, what are people doing with those shares? Are they commenting on them, yeah? Through to what are people actually doing based upon all those shares and comments that they've had. Yeah, so it gets more long-term, and that's why more qualitative comes in. And then ultimately, you're at the evaluation stage. What does this all mean? All these shares and likes and retweets and people commenting, yeah, people saying we're doing this and having opinions and attitudes, yeah, and understanding what does it actually mean, which is more evaluation than just pure analytics. How does that done over time? Well, let's have a look at this now, the timing, okay. And this is why we do have, now Adisa is now coming back in. This is why we do have in the content table timing, when you're going to do stuff, because that will have relevance as how when you measure what you're doing. So let's have a look through this, just looking at the timing. Obviously, first you need to have a benchmark, and we've kind of talked about that already. What's your starting point? Your objective. To have an objective, you must have a benchmark, yeah, a reference point. If we're talking about people going to coffee houses, you know, on average, how many people, what percentage of people going into coffee bars wear masks right now? If we're going to run a campaign, we need to know what the problem is now, yeah, because we're going to assess it later on. So we need to set a benchmark, yeah. That's the starting point. Before you even kick off anything, we need to have that. Then we progress our campaign based upon our campaign plan. But at some point in the future, as we kick it off, yeah, not leaving it till the end and finding out you've failed, we need to actually have milestones where we will stop and say, okay, have we achieved what we thought we achieved in terms of analytics? Yeah. How many people are engaging with our social media? Yeah. How many people are actually seeing this TV advert? Yeah. How many people attended this training webinar? Yeah. And if the numbers are too low, because you've assessed that actually this is a reasonable number, if the numbers are too low, that's when you think, hang on, are we not actually achieving, we're not heading in the right direction. And we need to maybe go back and rethink something because something's going wrong. No one is responding to these adverts about coffee shops, yeah, or about wearing masks in offices. Something's going on. So we need to have a benchmark. We do that, we go back. If we think, yes, people are engaging, it's looking good, we're getting the right amount of engagement, shares, likes, retweets, whatever, then that's good. And then we continue through doing the same thing. We carry on. And as time goes on, hopefully we get a better sense of we are achieving a direction towards our ultimate objective. Yeah. So we're still doing it as we go on. As I say, analytics becomes less important and more monitoring of the overall situation becomes more relevant until we get to the end of our campaign, 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever, where we can do full evaluation. And that full evaluation is ultimately, have we achieved our objective? Yeah, if we said we wanted 30% more people wearing masks in coffee shops, from the benchmark, have we achieved it? But in doing this process of stopping at milestones, assessing analytically and increasingly towards monitoring the wider situation, we stop, we check. And if there's a major problem, we address it. Because what we don't want to do is to come to the end, to the evaluation phase, and find, oh dear, hang on. No, we're nowhere near achieving our goal. It's a bit late then to be thinking that. Okay. So that's they are the main principles of evaluation and monitoring. But it is important to remember that you are looking at measurement of effect, ultimate effect, measurement of impact, ultimately, not measurement of performance. Your performance is to a degree irrelevant. What you are doing, the number of press releases, the number of social media posts, the outputs that you are doing is really actually it's irrelevant. Yeah, you need to be looking at the actual measurement of effect, the outcome and impact. That's where you need to be looking. Yeah. The reason I bang on about this is I've heard so many times someone saying, how's the campaign going? And a press officer, a comms officer come back and go, well, we put out 10 press releases last week and we've had, 5 tweets a day we put out. And you go, that's irrelevant. I don't care what you're doing. What are they doing out there? But too often, because it's easy to measure, comms often say, this is what we are doing. Don't care what you're doing, what's happening out there. That's a measurement, okay? Just going back to this old guy, yeah, I think I have quite a good saying. Yeah, not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. Yeah, just because you count the number of press releases doesn't mean to say it counts. So even Albert Einstein, he understood about, press releases and tweets and stuff, even before, tweets were invented. So what can be counted? Certainly in a media context, yeah, clips and story counts. Yeah, that means that, the audience is actually picking it up. Okay, often through another media, through journalism. Audience impressions on social media, they can be counted. Cost per impression, not so relevant to you, I don't think. In fact, these two here, not so much relevant to you. These are for more advertising agencies, and in fact, they're both going out. But interestingly, the advertising value equivalent is something that used to be used a lot, and it was a measurement of what you're doing. What would it cost to actually pay advertising to do it? So it's an interesting thought process to go through. Everything I'm doing, if I had to pay to advertise it instead through traditional communications channels, how much would it actually cost? How much am I doing it myself now? Yeah. What's the value of a webinar run by yourselves with, an important part of your audience? What's the value of that if you had to have the same effect, putting it through, paying for it through the media? Yeah. Tone and sentiment can be measured. And we'll look at that a little bit later, but you can actually measure how the audience is reacting. Yeah. And placement, where's this stuff going? Where is the message getting out there? A video, photograph being picked up, or quotes being picked up? Yeah. Where is it being picked up? Where are the nodes where your message is getting through? That can be picked up. Yeah. But in terms of what realistically you have to count, and this goes back to, how many people are wearing masks in your coffee shop? Who thinks what? How many think this thing? Yeah. How many do something? And how many have seen it? They're all at different levels, though. Just because people have seen it, does it mean they think a certain thing? And then how many think it? And ultimately, how many are doing it? So you run your coffee. I know I'm concentrating on the coffee shop one, because I quite liked it. Your coffee campaign, let's call it that. Yeah. How many have seen that material? Yeah. And therefore, what are they thinking about it? And how many are thinking about it? But ultimately, what are they doing about it? Ultimately, it's still about what are they doing about it? Yeah. what about the media itself? We haven't really talked too much about the media in this course, because there is always a danger, and I think especially there can be a danger in Bosnia, that people think campaigns are about the media. And this stems often from more senior people thinking that a campaign isn't working unless they see it on the television or hear it on the radio or see it in the newspaper. As we know, as communicators, often campaigns really get traction outside of the mainstream media. And the danger is seniors can think campaigns are all about the media. No, but it does have relevance. I think in all your assignments, you did have a degree of traditional media. You had TV, yeah? You had radio, largely radio spots. But the media will pick that up and will want to comment on stuff. Yeah. So we do need to also monitor what's going on in the media. Yeah. But I mean traditional legacy media. Yeah. Journalists. They do count. So I'm quickly going to bring up here a system that's used in the UK, developed in the UK, of having a system where we can actually look at the tone and sentiment in the media. And we have a five level score. I'll bring these up now here, where part of our everyday monitoring in a campaign, and even sometimes it's just monitoring on a daily basis, but especially during a campaign, is you would have a communications officer who would be looking at the media and making a decision on how negative or positive the coverage was. And using this scale of -2, -1, 0 for neutral, through to +2 positive. Yeah. That's not the whole story, though. In terms of media monitoring as well, we need to actually look at the media themselves. How important to those is the media? Now, here is an example from the UK, where once again they use 4 bands. Yeah, priority media, key target media, important media outlets, and other media. And they give a score of basically 1 to 4. That your priority media, as in the most important media for your campaign, is given the value of 4. Whereas you've got, so in this campaign that they were running, BBC National and BBC London, yeah, and the national news was seen as actually that's our priority media because it was a large scale campaign. Other key target media, yeah, well we came down to a little bit more local stuff, yeah, and here less important, yeah, and here important but not that important, graded 1 to 4. Okay, that would very much depend on your campaign. Yeah, in all of your campaigns, I'd say that, yeah, well, are the nationals or the big media players, are they that relevant, or do you need to be looking at something much more bespoke and niche to your audiences, especially for the 18 to 25s? Yeah, one of you said, actually, we're not going to even go near TV. We don't care about TV. Yeah, so do your TV broadcasters, do they really count? Probably not. So your big national, in that campaign specifically, your priority media probably would not be TV. It would be something else. So these are marked 4 down to 1 based upon their relevance to your specific audience. How important and how influential are these with your specific audience? Yeah, if you were doing a campaign to sell a new lipstick, say, not that I've ever done that, yeah, your BBC in the UK, your BBC National News and BBC London, absolutely irrelevant. However, women's magazines, absolutely. Yeah, your Marie Claire, your Cosmopolitan, there will be similar ones in Bosnia, I'm sure. They would be a priority media because they are of most relevance to your audience. So once again, mark 1 to 4. And then that would be put together using your sentiment meter from -1 to -2, -1, 0 for neutral, 1 and 2, and then also your media level, the importance of your media. So this was to do with a specific campaign. They put a band, so BBC TV London was considered a very important media. Yeah, there was a certain piece of media that came out. The tone was very positive, so it was given 2, and therefore it was then given a total of 8. So yes, really good media coverage relevant to our audience. 8. So it's positive, high-profile media for our audience. Brilliant. 8. Down here, less so. They had something about, this was, Madonna was involved in something to do with the campaign. It came out in a magazine, which, yeah, wasn't that important to our audience. But yeah, it was positive. But because it wasn't that important to our audience, it only became a 2. And of course, these might be negative as well. Yeah. So it gives you an idea of what is happening in the media, which is relevant to our audience, based upon the 2 things of sentiment, -2 to +2, and the importance and relevance of that media to your audience, not to the minister, not to yourselves even, to your audience. And therefore you can come up with a grading system, which is a degree of monitoring. Yeah, if you're getting lots of minus values when you put that together, you know something's going badly wrong. No matter how good your ground war, your ground campaign is working with posters and flyers and everything, if it's reflecting badly in the media, something is not going right. So it's worthwhile then thinking, have we got a message wrong? Have we got a channel wrong? Yeah. Is the audience just reacting very badly to what we thought would be a good message, etc.? And you can come up with something like this, over time as well. Yeah. You can give a percentage in change. Yeah. From, positive through to neutral and even negative. Yeah. So you can start quantifying. You can start quantifying your media output. Simple as that. And you may already do similar things in your offices, in your daily media clips for maybe the minister. This is now specific to a campaign. Yeah, for this campaign, what's the relevant media and what's the tone that's coming across? Okay. Just going a little bit further into analytics. The analytics and evaluation will help you answer these questions ultimately. Yeah. Have I achieved my objectives as stated in the campaign plan? Did I reach the right audience? Did I use the right tools? Did my message have an impact on the audience? What were their reactions? Did my campaign resonate with the audience? And also in terms of content, did my audience interact more with pictures or videos or audio or whatever? That's quite important because you probably won't be running one campaign. You'll be running in the next 6 months another campaign. So this is valuable intelligence on audiences, which can feed back. Actually, when we run that campaign last time, we found that most of that audience didn't really interact with visuals. Unlikely, but could be. They didn't like stills, but they loved the videos. Yeah. Or that audience really, really did go for the audio. Yeah. Radio is very powerful. It just feeds back into your database for understanding your audience and how they will respond to future campaigns. Okay. In terms of awareness, Yeah, there are some simple things we can look to in terms of awareness. I'll just bring up the next slide here, especially regarding digital and social media. Reach. What was the reach? Yeah. How many eyeballs actually came across your material, your content? And just rested on it, even just for a second. Yeah. How many times on their screens, be it laptop, be it probably more likely mobile, yeah, or tablet, how many times did it come across their screens, whether they clicked on it or not? At least it was available to them. Yeah. If they didn't click on it, then maybe because you weren't persuasive enough, or maybe at the time that wasn't an issue they were interested in, but it was available. You made sure that the impressions were available. They were on their screen at some point in time. Views, yeah, well, okay, we're going a bit more, getting a little bit more granularity now. Views, so how many people did actually click on a video and watch something? Yeah. Sometimes you're not going to necessarily know how long they watched it for. Yeah, how many times have you clicked on a video and within 5 seconds thought, nah, boom, gone? Yeah. So you're not going to get necessarily an idea that the completeness of the viewing of any video content, but you'll know you enticed people enough to click on and say, I'll give this a little bit of my time. Yeah. Clicks, what likely the same sort of thing. The clicks on something to open up another level, yeah, of your engagement. The number of clicks and posts. But also what you can get often from this sort of data is, well, who is doing the clicking? Who is opening the video? Yeah. Where are the impressions occurring? So you can, to a degree, get these analytics back. We're not doing digital strategy in this campaign planning module. Yeah. But that's where we're starting to head into when we talk about this. Yeah. Using in a digital strategy, what mechanisms are we going to use to actually measure social media and digital media traffic and engagement with our system, with our campaign? Yeah, but these are some of the things that we can actually consider as campaign planners. And even if we're not digitally savvy ourselves, we speak to people, maybe digital specialists within our organization, or to specialist agencies that can start doing this kind of evaluation for us. In terms of engagement, we do need to be aware of certain things as well. Yeah, the number and quality of interactions, those interactions in the digital space. Yeah, we've already mentioned them, and I'm not going to dwell too much time on them, but likes, comments, and shares. Of those, the likes, comments, and shares, which gives you the most information regarding how engaged your audience is? Anybody of those three, likes, comments, and shares, which gives you most information about the engagement of your audience?
We have a comment on chat from Ivana.
Mm-hmm.
She said shares.
Shares, yeah. Anybody else?
Mimi.
Shares.
Okay, comments and Daria.
Mubera shares.
Shares, okay. Okay, I'll ask the question. Okay, what do shares tell you? What do shares tell you? Mizo, what do shares tell you?
Oprostite samo jer imao sam drugu obvezu. Možete li ponoviti pitanje šta od ovog 3 moramo da izdvojimo?
Can you please repeat the question? I had to attend to something.
Okay.
What is the question about these three?
Yeah, we've got the three. We've got if we had information digitally on our campaign, we had the number of likes, we had the number, and we had the number of likes. We could look at the likes. we could look at the comments, and we could look at the shares. Which of those three gives us most information and most granularity about what's happening? Some people have said shares, some people have said comments. No one's really said likes, I don't think.
Po meni možda najviše komentari, jer da bi neko komentarisao nešto morao je to i da
I
vidi.
think comments, because that means that that person dedicated some time to it and thought about it. Like is automatic. I like it, I'm moving on. Share is something in between. I saw it, I like it, and I shared it with someone else because I want them to know about it. But the comment is telling us that someone spent more time on the content and engaged with it and then came up with a comment.
Yeah. Okay. Ivana, what would you like to respond to that?
Ja bih rekla da su to shares ili podjele.
I think shares, because that is a call for action, because then people are telling you that they believe in that they support that, the message, the narrative, and that they want the people from their circles to be engaged with it and to support the narrative. But the comment is an opinion. It's not calling anyone to action. Anyone can have a comment, but it doesn't mean anything for your future activities.
Okay, thank you. Dalibor, do you want to throw in your weight behind this?
Nekako kontekstu u kojem ja živim i radim.
In my context, where I live and work, comments are more indicative. I will start from my own example. I share something on the social media because I want others to see it. And sometimes there is a dose of cynicism behind that. There are a lot of cynics in our around us. And to conclude, I think that comment it provides or is the most relevant for this.
Okay.
That there is an emotion or interest in place, if you ask me.
Which, sorry, say that again, Yusanka.
Share tells me that there is an emotion or interest in place, if you ask.
True. Okay. Daria, you've been waving your hands. Go on. Yeah. Daria?
Ja sam za ovu opciju komentar, jer ja kada...
opt for the comments because when I'm looking at something on Facebook, I can like it or not like it. Sometimes I like it to provide support to someone that I know, but that doesn't really concern me. But if I comment, that means that this is something that I'm interested in and I want to give my opinion. So from the comments, you can get the idea about the influence of your message on other people and the behavioral change and to adjust accordingly. So I would opt for the comment. The share is also important in our line of work because we want to see what is being shared around. But when you read someone's comment, then you can get the idea about their level of engagement, what they think about it. It can give you, it can provide you with the information about what you did right and what you did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can, plan based on that.
Okay. Now, sorry, I don't need a name, but yes, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
None of these cannot be observed alone because I get the impression that comments may provide some opinions about the topic, but when you look at what people comment on certain posts, you will see that people who have a negative attitude towards everything tend to comment on things and on posts, but rarely will you see people commenting, people who have a positive attitude towards something or positive opinion or something positive to say. So I don't think that comments are the most valid in the sense of providing insight into your message, like if I look at it from my perspective, I am not prone to commenting, neither positive nor negative. But very often I will just press like, I will not comment, although I think, although I have a strong opinion about it. So if our objective is to have this information reach people, as many people as possible, I would opt for shares, or I would think that shares gives you the most information. Because as I said, it's really questionable whether comments, especially in the current situation everywhere, and are valid. If someone has a very negative opinion about something, they will comment. Rarely will you come across a positive comment or a positive opinion about an issue. So that's it for my side.
We didn't take into consideration the numbers. Likes are the easiest to count.
Yeah, yeah. Mubera, you had your
Yes.
hand up.
Thank you, Jem. Nadam se da me svi čujete. Dobar
Thank
dan.
you, Jem. I hope you can all hear me. Everything that was said about the comments, I absolutely agree with that. But why I think that shares are most important in this context, it's because it's, for me, the higher level of engagement in this sense. Because when I decide to share information about an event or something that interests me and I want to spread around, then I'm going to use all of my additional channels and I'm going to spread the news and I'm going to contribute. I'm going to encourage further sharing. If a campaign is in question, I will be the proponent, I will be the advocator of that narrative. So, for example, if we are implementing a campaign on public administration reform, I will comment maybe on information about that. This person will see that this interests me, but when I additionally engage by sharing on the site of my institution or my LinkedIn profile or my Facebook profile, my Facebook account, I think it's an added value. And from in my opinion, share it shows the level of engagement, is most indicative of the level of engagement. But I agree with what colleagues said about comments, but I would myself opt for shares.
Okay, and Dejan's got his hand up as well.
Da, ja također u ovom izboru između ove tri kategorije se odlučio.
Looking at the three categories, I would also opt for comments. Why? It's because just liking something, pressing like is an automatic reaction. As you scroll down your wall, you just you like a photo or something and you just click. You really don't think about too much about the content. So like is to a quantitative indicator of something that we want to measure. But when it comes to sharing, it might not be relevant because people share posts just to fill in their wall on Facebook, to show that they're active in social media, but they really don't go further than just reading the title of the article or the content that they're sharing. So comment is the most relevant indicator because on one hand, it gives you an idea, it gives you feedback on your message if it was well received, and we can see if it's I mean, we can read the explanation why something is people found to be good or not. It gives you, as I said, an idea. You can read from the comments why something why people think that you did something well or not. So if you are looking into relevant media or
na društvenim mrežama, mislim da se zapravo kod njih najviše u komentarima i nekoj kvalitetnoj raspravi može naći kvalitetnog sadržaja.
I lost translation in the last 10 seconds.
Mislim da u krugu, ukoliko pratimo relevantne pojedince, neke one, što ih zovemo opinion lidere u našoj zajednici, koji
So in our community, if we have people commenting on good contents, and people who have followers commenting on their comments, then I think we can get pretty good feedback.
Yeah. Okay.
On what we need.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Vera, and everybody else. Yasenka, what's going on in the chat?
Parallel discussion on the chat. Meanwhile, Dalibor partially corrected his previously stated opinion. He said if you are trying to consider this from the position of someone who is implementing certain campaign, then share is important, because then you can see the value of contribution in the further distribution of the message you want to send to certain target audience. He is partially correcting his previously stated statement. Ivana said on the base of positive and negative comments, we can count number of commenters pro and con. And having in mind the culture of communication and media literacy and a huge number of negative comments that are hidden behind fake profiles, it's a big question if there is how to say that, it's a big question, is available to try to correct certain opinion or certain behavior of certain audience. But Daria is saying the target of our campaign is to change behavior. If someone doesn't like our message, then we can conclude this on the basis of its comment. Mubera is saying the way how we use share is important.
Yeah.
It's the easiest to share. It's easiest to share and show the interest and the action, as Dejan said. But if you share something and add your personal opinion on that sharing, then it's some kind of other story.
But
Daria
thank you. Yeah.
Said that she agreed with that.
Yeah. Thank you very much, all, for that. And yeah, I don't disagree with any of those. I think the point being is that it's all quite nuanced, really. I'd say of all of the three there, the likes are probably the ones I'd shy away from, because they're called they're based upon very weak ties. It's very easy to do a like, and by doing a like, you are demanding others actually see your like. So it's not a very effective measurement, really. But in shares and comments, yeah, they both have quite a degree of value, because shares often indicate a positive response, even though Dalibor was right. Some people can share because they're cynical, but by and large, people share because they're responding to a call to action. And also, it's worthwhile. A share is much more proactive. It's active as opposed to likes, which are passive. Yeah. So it does demand more of the audience to do something when they do actually share something. And also, I think, as Dejan said, it's quite important to see who's sharing amongst whom and who's then sharing them further on. So shares themselves do have a degree of evaluative capacity. The problem with shares is you're not getting the degree of understanding of tone and sentiment. You're only getting an idea that there's that someone's taking it positively. With comments, the advantage is, yes, you can dig down and assess what people are really thinking. Yeah, about what's saying, some positive, some negative. having said that, as Natasha said about comments, normally only a certain sort of person tends to comment, and comments generally are negative. So it can the sample you're looking at when you're looking at comments is skewed, as they'd say in the research community. But it does have a degree. But comments do have value because they can give you a tone of sentiment, even though it is amongst a certain bunch of people, a certain bunch of people who may never ever be won over by your campaign. But it's worthwhile listening to some of the negative comments that are coming across, because you might look and say, actually, that's a negative comment coming from, yeah, a group I would expect to be negative, but it's a negative comment that could actually become resonant with a wider public, because they actually do make a reasonably good argument against our campaign. So it's always, so comments do give you that more granularity. It is skewed. It tends to be negative, but it's worthwhile listening to. Yeah. So all have value. Likes probably the least. Yeah. I think purely basing your campaign on the number of likes you get, that's a very, very weak metric. Very, very weak metric. I'll give you an example from 10 years ago. Probably one of the most quickest viral campaigns done about 10 years ago, Save the Darfur campaign, a brilliant campaign. And their objective was to bring in donor money from the public, actually, public funds to fund a campaign saving Darfur in Sudan. They went from 0 to over 1 million likes on their campaign, their Facebook campaign, in I think something like 48 or 72 hours. It was the quickest growth of likes on Facebook at the time. But the number of people that actually donated to the campaign hardly moved at all. So it showed that people very easily, I'll go like, but I didn't want you to like this. I want you to actually give me some money to save Darfur. Yeah, but everyone's going, hey, isn't this great? Look, we've got 1 million likes. How much money have you been given? Well, not much. So what's the point? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. But comments and shares, they have relevance as long as you consider the nuance of them. Yeah. Okay, let's press on. Once again, this is not a digital strategy course where you'd probably go into a lot more detail if we were doing that. Impact metrics. Yeah, and this goes back to a little bit around the comments area. Just looking for sustained constructive engagement. Shares tend to be on a constructive level. Sustained antagonistic engagement, that's where you'll get it more from comments, but bearing in mind that only a certain kind of person will probably comment. You know, it's probably quite negative anyway about what you're trying to do. Yeah, but you need to know, how much constructive engagement have you got and how much negative antagonistic engagement you got. Shares and likes do have that role in doing that. I'm not going to dwell too much on this, but you probably know already the value, the abilities you have with, say, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. They all have analytical capabilities. Yeah, which you as communicators can delve into. There's an example there from Facebook Insights. Yeah, I think the next one. Yeah, Facebook Insights. A lot of information come from there, and Google Analytics as well. You probably will have within your departments someone who will be much more able to dig into those analytics on those systems. Yeah, as communicators, you need to know what. Although you can get digital techie gurus who can dig all this stuff out for you, what are you actually looking for? Yeah. What does a like mean? What does a share mean? What does a comment mean? What does a view mean? What does impressions mean? Yeah. And how much do they actually really contribute to my understanding and evaluation and monitoring and analytics of my campaign? But ultimately, in any of this, it is back to the beginning. If you have not set a good objective at the start, you'll never be able to really measure your campaign. Yeah. So you do need to have had that objective set. And that's why I said right at the start of this, yeah, How many people do you want to do something? That's your objective, not I want to do this. How many people out there do I want to do this? Something they didn't do yesterday, I want more of them to do this tomorrow. It needs to be defined like that. And also it does need to be defined in that SMART metric. Without that, your evaluation will fail completely. So you do need to make sure that, you know, your oasis effectively is going in a circle, and although objectives at the start, it has a degree of scoring and evaluation embedded in it right at the start. Okay. I'm not going to dwell too much on this bit. Just bearing in mind, we talked about qualitative and quantitative before. Your qualitative methods of getting information, I'll just bring them all up. Your focus groups, your interviews, your surveys, face-to-face, phone, SMS surveys, or phone-to-phone interviews, and CMC, which is computer mediated communication. Certain agencies can actually do all this by computer assisted telephone interviews. There are more sophisticated systems, but you can, largely you'd probably be going out to external agencies to do this. But as communicators, you need to be aware of what capabilities are available to external research agencies and your role in the research process. What questions do you really need asked or answered? Sorry. What are those questions? Yeah, and how do you want the answers presented to you? The worst thing is that a polling organization does a poll for you and says, "There you go, here are the answers," and you go, "Well, that's not quite what I wanted to know." Well, you told me as a polling organization, you told me X, and now you're telling me you wanted Y. Well, it's a bit late now. So you need to know how these things work. Yeah, the research agencies know their business, but you need to have a very good conversation with them to understand exactly what you want answered. Yeah, and similarly, the quantitative area, surveys, questionnaires, they are cross-sectional, longitudinal over time, and can be multi-survey, as in cross-sectional. If you have funding, you should be doing public opinion surveys all the time, so that when you do have a campaign, you have a bank of information already. I'm sure some of you do. Yeah, do public information surveys. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure in Bosnia, there will have been several public opinion surveys done regarding coronavirus. I'm absolutely sure. Yeah, the sampling may have been, big or small, but there will be information out there right now which you're using. Yeah. The thing about quantitative is you can do a lot of this yourself. Yeah. I asked you before you started this to do a pre-training survey. Now that was me using a system called SurveyMonkey. Could have used Google Forms, Kahoot, or whatever. Yeah, you can do this to a degree, as an organization yourself, especially if the sampling is quite small. Certainly in group, I think it's group 4 that are doing civil service, council ministers. Yeah, you could do a lot of surveys. Yeah, to understand people's awareness and understanding of the issue right now, of what are government guidelines, what should I do? You could do surveys quite easily. The others are a little bit more difficult, but you can technically do this yourself. Yeah, for bigger stuff, the more qualitative, then you probably would be going to a research agency to do it. Okay. And it's not just me that says this is all good stuff. There are something called the Barcelona Principles. I'll bring them all up now. These were agreed by the international public relations authorities across the globe back 10 years ago. I think they updated these. And they set the principles for measurement, evaluation, metrics of communications. Yeah. They state the importance of goal setting first and objective setting. Yeah. If you don't get your objectives right, you'll never be able to measure. They specify is the measurement on outcomes is preferable to outputs, as we've already said. Measuring press releases is not a good measurement. Yeah. That the impacts and outcomes should be measured wherever possible. I'd say they have to be measured, not even where possible. If you can't measure your impacts and outcomes, it's not worth doing it. Media measurement requires quantity and quality. Yeah, we talked about in media, we talked about the quality, the relevance of that media to your audience and the tone and sentiment, quality and quantity. Average advertising values, average advertising value equivalents, AVEs, as they used to be called, not really a great measurement. Yeah. Social media should and can be measured. Likes and shares and comments, absolutely. Yeah, we can get a lot from them. And transparency and replicability are paramount to sound measurement. What does that really mean? Yeah, that, you know, when you do produce a campaign, that your measurement of it does need to be shown to a wide audience and not just kept to yourself. Yeah, that if someone wants to know, especially if you have done focus groups, here's the example. If you do a big focus group or you do a big survey of public opinion on a certain issue, say, you know, whatever organizer, whatever entity does it, there are two ways of thinking. You can say, right, we've got this information and we're going to hold it to ourselves. Or you can say, actually, no, this is relevant to other people. The open data movement, yeah, something that really does annoy me, that there is so much data that is collected by organizations, and we as a human race don't actually know this information is there and replicate and then go and do the same thing. Yeah, the number of times it's happened to me that, you know, we've done a public opinion campaign in a place, and then someone, you know, we go, oh, well, let's do that because we haven't got any information, and then 2 weeks later someone says, oh, we did the same thing 3 months ago. I think, why didn't you tell us? Because we've just done this, and what, you know, the information was there and it wasn't relevant. So I think it's quite important if you as institutions within your government do any of this research, it should be made available to everybody else, certainly within government, and I'd say to the public as well. I think that's quite important. Yeah, transparency and replicability is key to sound measurement. I would say that's how I interpret that. If you do research, make it as publicly available as possible, or widely as available as possible. Are there any questions at this point? Okay, that's great. We're not going to do a discussion because we've done a lot of discussion. I'm very happy with the way that we've had these discussions, and there's some really useful stuff we've learned from each other. But what I am going to show you, and it is available for you on the LMS, is that, you know, I'm not going to give you another coffee. Don't worry, you've already had enough coffee. Is I'm going to show you now an example from a real campaign plan, or certainly not necessarily the full plan, but a brief on a plan, a real plan, which is happening now in Bosnia. And it is on the LMS. I'm going to bring it up and you can peruse it at your leisure, because it's going to clear that. Here on the LMS is the brief conducted for a campaign which is now running. Yeah. So this was produced by Albany as part of the wider project we are doing at the moment, public health campaign. Yeah. Policy objectives, campaign objectives. Yeah. Analysis. So I'm not going to go dwell into it in detail. You can do this on your own. This is real. This is real. This is what was used to brief on how we're going to run this campaign. Analysis, all there. Analysis from the World Health Organization. Yeah, so really analyzing the situation, what's going on. Yeah. Other sources, yeah, some focus groups were done. Yeah. Audience, yeah. Then looking at strategy, yeah. The overall message, the supporting themes, personal, professional, societal. Yeah. A theory of change. That was part of the strategy. Campaign implementation, going into, okay, so what are we actually going to do? And there is, I don't think it plays in this, but this, have any of you seen this yet? This campaign? It's only just been launched. Not yet. Okay, this should be hitting the high streets soon, imminently, in fact. Okay, there is a TV spot there. Obviously, this is PDF, so I can't play it, but it is out there on social media, and I think it's being played on TV as well. So it's either in the last few days or is about to take place. Yeah. So the real stuff came out.
It's ongoing.
What's that?
Ongoing.
It's ongoing. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is out there. A media plan. Yeah. Scoring evaluation. Yeah. So that is on the system for you to take away and use. But this is for a real campaign, which is as I say, it's just kicked off and is going to be ongoing for the next few months. Yeah. So, you know, Albany is practicing.
Yeah, Azra is commenting that she has seen last night at BNTV.
Okay.
And there is that's it's supported by the government of the UK.
Yeah. Okay.
Disclaimer. Yeah.
So it is out there. That is on the LMS. So you can reference that and go back and say, well, this is actually a real thing. Okay. I'm not going to go into it in any detail here. You can in your own time. Yeah. Just to finally finish off, really, I'm an ex-military man. So I like to, you know, Sun Tzu, I quoted that. He's an ex-military campaign guy. I just thought, in terms of holistically, and something that often we forget in the modern world, the military campaign, any military campaign tends to be run in three realms. I'm actually ex-Navy. Yeah, so there isn't a ship on there, but I'm not going to worry about it too much, okay? That we have, in military terms, cyber, air, and ground. If you think about communication campaigns, that yes, we do have cyber in communication campaigns, digital and social media. We do have air, over the airwaves, yeah, media and press. That's how we do campaigns as well. Not exclusively, yeah. And also we do have traditional, good old-fashioned stuff, yeah. The ground stuff, the flyers, the knocking on doors sometimes, the town hall meetings, the old school, yeah. This is sometimes where we forget, I think, that in the white heat of technology and the dazzle of media and celebrity, we forget that actually the ground campaign, the knocking on doors, the NGOs that could be supporting us, the civil society organizations that could be supporting us and helping us to achieve common goals, I think there's still a massive power to be unleashed in the traditional old-fashioned ways of doing things. People to people, the ground campaign. So what I would say is, yes, great stuff that we've talked about so far in digital and media, yeah, but never forget the power of the, you know, face-to-face, the human being. The ground campaign can be very, very powerful. So don't forget that. It works in the military, the technology, in the military sphere as well. But the ground war, and in fact, in campaigns in the UK, people do talk about ground, air, and cyber campaigns. Yeah, they do talk about ground campaigns. How is your ground campaign going? And talking about communications. Yeah. Finally, as we finish, I don't need to dwell too much on this now because we have done this holistic approach before. Yeah. Remember the example of the sweets and getting children to have a better dietary, better diet. Yeah. The objectives we set, the analysis we do, the strategy. Remember the strategy based upon campaign objectives, policy objectives, but then the crux. Remember the crux that we talked about? This is holistic approach that we need as campaigners to cover everything. The implementation and the scoring. And it's the holistic approach is everything. Everything we do in our campaign planning and execution has to cover everything here. We cannot operate in silos. We cannot just say, oh, we're going to stop people wearing masks. Oh, well, I'll tell you what, let's just have a video with people wearing masks. No, we have to be a lot more sophisticated and holistic in our approach. If we don't, then we will always have half-formed campaigns. Half-formed campaigns often tend to be just noisy and don't necessarily achieve objectives. So the campaign planner has to be a sophisticated beast. You have to think in a sophisticated, holistic manner and apply creativity to your work. Never think that this should be siloed. It's a multidisciplinary line of work. Yeah, from high tech through to psychology, social psychology, yeah, finance, risk management. A lot goes into running a campaign and planning one, certainly. Yeah. So we've got 5 minutes before we finish. Are there any comments or points from you before I formally wrap this up? It is lunchtime, I know. That's fair enough. Okay. There are a couple of things I need you to do. No, I don't need you to do. Well, I'd like you to do. Yeah. What we do have now on the LMS is a campaign planning framework, which you can take away and you can use it as part of a template for any campaign you produce. Okay. I'll just show it to you on the screen. And you will recognize it because you've already done a lot of it. Yeah, so what's going on? Yeah, there we go. Oh, and that's the English version. Sorry, there are 2 of them. Oops. I've lost my cursor. Sorry, I'll go through. This is the English version, but you will recognize the template. Yeah, there is the Bosnian version. I'll make sure it is on the system. It is on the system, but it hasn't come up on here. Yeah, scoring, evaluation, implementation. You did that for the assignment beforehand. Yeah, your messaging, theory of change, strategy. Yeah, it's all there. So if you were to run a campaign tomorrow and didn't know where to start, of course you won't know where. You will know where to start because you're all trained. Then you could just grab this. And they'll say there is the Bosnian version. I don't know why it's not coming up. I'll make sure it does. Yeah. So there is that. That's for you to take away and use to your heart's content. You've also got access to that, as I say, that Albany project brief, planning brief. That's on the system as well. What I do require of you is to do the post-training survey. I've lost my cursor again. Where is it? Post-training survey, which is in Bosnian and English. Yeah. So please do that, because if you do that, you will get certificates of attendance. If you don't, you will not be awarded a certificate of attendance. Okay, so that's a little bit of persuasion there. Okay. Do your pre-training survey and you will receive a certificate of attendance. And the certificate of attendance will be placed on the LMS for you to download. Okay. So there are a couple of things. A couple of extra things though, just for a reminder for the future. This is the end of the campaign planning module. But in January, February, March, we will be doing more training. We'll be doing a trainer and trainer course. Yeah, 2 sessions there. 1 session looking at traditional classroom-based training, but also 1 session looking at online training and getting you to experience and actually plan training using what we've just done. Yeah, because you could do that. There's no reason why you guys and girls couldn't develop an LMS. And I know actually some departments in Bosnia do have a degree of online training. So we'll be doing that. And also we'll be doing a full module, 4-session module like this one on communication management as well, probably in February. So there's more training to be had. Okay. Are there any questions at this point?
Yes, please.
Please, Lubera.
Moje pitanje je da li ste planirali...
My question is, did you make plans for any trainings on the importance of communications only for the management?
Are you claiming that the management need to know this? I'm surprised at the question. No, it's perfectly honest, we have not. Every time we do start a project, we say, yeah, we need to train management. It is so difficult to tie them down. It really is. We keep looking for opportunities as they raise their heads to try and get people to do this, but it is very difficult to get management to actually sign up. But you do raise a very good point that a lot of communicators and campaigns suffer because senior management don't quite understand what's needing to be done. Yeah. And senior managers don't necessarily support communications. We obviously did the MIMC session earlier on, the MIMC and Com session earlier on. So we did have some people there. I know that the cabinet secretaries are involved and have done training. But apart from that, no, we have not planned. But we still continue to look for opportunities to try and do training for them. Yeah, I think we're in a lot better position now because when you or we go to management, we can say, look, this is not a vague concept of communications that we're doing. We do have protocols. We have practices. Yeah, we have templates. Yeah, we have standards. Yeah, professional standards now are embedded in the CSAs. Yeah, we have MIMC. We have systems in place. So it is more easy when we have that and you can present to the management and say, look, this isn't just us communicators going, can we do stuff? There is a form. There is function. There is structure to what you're doing. So to answer your question, no, we have not planned it, but we do look for opportunities to do so. And it is, you're absolutely right, very important that we do try and get management to buy in and support you guys and girls.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Are there any other questions before we wrap up? Before we do a Zoom selfie? Okay. In that case, what I would like you to do, all of you, is if you can, turn your cameras on, please. As many people as possible. Come on, there's got to be some more. Come on, who else? Come on. Bojana, you can put yours on, surely. Actually,
I can't because on the laptop I'm working on today, I don't have a camera, sorry.
Okay, so Adisa and Mimi and Zorisa and Dunya, Yeah. Oh, they're coming up. They're coming up now. Come on. That's it. Bring it up. Who else? Who else?
Žena sent her apologies. She's not available to turn camera on.
Okay. Okay. Right. Well, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take a quick snap of everybody.
Sorry, it's a two, but okay.
Okay. Let me just. Have I got? Right. Hang on. Okay. I'm now going to take a snap of everybody. So wave to the camera, everybody. There you go. You're caught on camera. Brilliant. Okay, so with that, I will now let you go.
Maybe you can share a photo with all of us.
I will put it on. I'll put it on the LMS. I will put it on the LMS. Do not worry. Yeah. Let me just sort this out. I will put it on the LMS.
Everything is on LMS.
Everything is on. Yeah. If it's not on the LMS, it doesn't
when
exist.
Someone asks, where's Jem? Jem is on LMS.
LMS, yeah. Yeah. I exist in cyber world, really. Yeah. If it's not on the LMS, it doesn't matter. Okay, everyone. That's the end of this session. That's the end of this module. Please remember to do your post-training survey, and this video of this will go on the LMS. The LMS is a resource for you to go in and play with. We will probably be transferring a lot of the material to MIMC anyway, as well. But in the short term, there'll be stuff on there. Your campaign planning framework, that real campaign plan, the videos of this, the assignments I will put up there as well, so you can all see the assignment work that you did. So yeah, and with that, unless anyone's got any comments or questions, I will bid you farewell and wish you a good weekend. And if I don't speak to you before, a good break over Christmas, and see you in January. Great. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye. I shall leave you alone and let you carry on with your day. Thank you very much. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Jem.
Bye now.